What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Yours Truly podcast. I'm your host, Christian Baxter, and today I'm sitting down with someone who wandered into my world the way most of the best people do, through a live stream and a random comment. And then suddenly we got to talk in a hallway at Midwest Estuary, where we had a really interesting conversation. His name's Rigel Thurston, and if you spent any time in the TLC space, you might have seen him pop up on Luke's live streams over in Grail Country, or on his own live stream he started on Fridays, the Cosmic Navel, the internet. I got to connect with Rigel in Meet Space this year at Midwest Estuary in Chicago. And as I was filming a quick mini vlog, he said something that lodged itself in my mind. Whatever TLC is, it's on the bleeding edge of culture. Not in the tech startup sense, but in the human sense, the place where conversation, meaning, and identity get reworked at the speed of trust instead of at the speed of algorithm. When someone with 20 years in orthodoxy, a jazz musician's intuition, and a developmental philosopher's lens says that, you pay attention. Rigel carries the kind of biography that makes sense of why he fits here. Raised in a six-sided house by San Francisco hippies, named after a star, became Baptist, found orthodoxy, built songwriting communities in Austin, and now he spends Fridays cultivating the digital equivalent of a house church. He sees the internet not as an escape, but as a new kind of commons, one where people who would never meet otherwise end up doing something like spiritual formation together. This is my third conversation with him, and at this point, we're comfortable enough to do a little TLC navel gazing, the good kind, the cosmic kind. If you've ever wondered what TLC looks like through the eyes of someone who's been formed by liturgy, improvisation, failure, community, and the long, slow burn of tradition, this will be that conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe for the channel influence. And if you want to support the work, consider becoming a channel member. Link in the description. And if you're listening on podcasts, maybe leave a review to let the world know we exist here at Yours Truly. So let's get into it. Here's my third conversation from the Cosmic Navel in Austin, Texas. It's Rigel Little Deer Windsong Thurston. Hi, this is Christian Baxter. And you're listening to Yours Truly, a place we go to think out loud. We just, Rigel's laughing because we just did some Orthodox chant backstage. It's not very often I, get on with another musician, like in his studio, the Cosmic Navel. Is that the actual name for it? Is that the name of your studio?
It is now. I have to say, Christian, when you introduced me a year ago on my first rando, you had picked up on the Cosmic Navel, the driftwood fort on the sandy beach of the Cosmic Navel, this funny line that I just tagged into a blog post I put out there trying to explain that I'm weird in a playful way. And you, I think, introduced me as, the one with the driftwood fort on the Cosmic Navel. And it just stuck. Like I've used the word Cosmic Navel a lot in my life, but I've never come out in public and used it. And you kind of gave me permission with your hyper encouragement, which I appreciate about you.
Oh, wow. That's interesting how these things work, how like influence, meme, all that kind of stuff in creativity, how that all kind of, I don't know, and things hit and things stick or they don't. And it's funny because people just started calling me Seabax, because it's easier to say than Christian Baxter. I've got an X in my name.
Yeah.
And my name's, it's like this really crunchy name. Like every time Paul says my full name, he's like Christian Baxter. And so most people just say like Seabax.
Yeah. It uses the full range of your mouth and like every sound you can make. It's
yeah. And dude, this is crazy. So, I work with if you're not working with ChatGPT or you pretend like you're not, but you are, so I've been using ChatGPT, and I noticed on the thing on the upper bar today, it said, "Hey Seabax, how are you doing today?"
Oh God.
it picked up on it somehow, dumping transcripts in there and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, it's strange what's in a name. And that was what Peugeot at the conference, at the Midwest Estuary Conference, when someone, I can't remember, what is this little corner of the internet? And he said, well, let's, look at the name. And so that, we're already kind of circling that in our two-person estuary right now. What's the name, Cosmic Navel and influence. And so, it's funny because I guess when I first started playing in the corner, people were saying, oh, look, it's the navel gazing. We're talking about it. And I think I said this in the intro, but it's appropriate because the name of your Friday live stream is like, what is it? The cosmic? It's something cosmic.
It's the cosmic. Well, it's been evolving. Like, here's the thing. It started out.
They're looking like more thummy. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it started out as live from the Earth Dome in the Cosmic Navel, and then live at the Cosmic Navel, and then now I've been kind of pitching it as Cosmic Navel Gazing with Rigel. Because there's something, and this is part of my art process, I do metal art. I'm a metal artist. So I have a scrap pile in the back of my yard with just a bunch of stuff that I've collected from back alleyways. Anywhere I see junk, I will pull over and see if it's metal and throw in the back of my truck. And so I have this like little incubator of possible items that I could turn into metal art. And it's all junk, but something will stand out as like usable. And then I just pull that thread, and oftentimes, something will be bent in such a way, and then I'll unbend it and I'll be like, oh, this totally works. And I think like the term navel gazing, it's a cliche. It has all of this baggage with it, but there's something actually, I think, beautiful about it. And if you just put the word cosmic before navel gazing, suddenly it's takes on new meaning.
Well, that's you. I was like totally, you already mentioned like doing the rando with you, and then you went on Substack and you wrote this piece and you said TLCing, like, and then so there's this like the gaze and seeing what that's like, and I was like, oh man, look what I did, I was participating in this kind of thing, that was, that sounds real bad in my Christian evangelical. Oh, look what I did, But,
oh yeah, you're not supposed to draw attention to any possible good thing that you've done.
So I was just with Cadell last night, and he was like, I heard Boyce and Land, and they were talking about total depravity, and I was like, oh yeah, we could talk about that. But beside the point, so you've come in, you were like, Christian baptized me into the TLC, using this religious language. And you were participating in live streams, and you've got your own kind of like developmental philosophy, culture building work. But then you were like, I also want to play in this sandbox. And so you started doing weekly live streams. Funny enough, at the same time as Paul Vanderklay, which is like probably the worst time anyone could like try to do a TLC live stream. Oh yeah. But it's kind of working, and you've got kind of the Orthodox thing, the Orthodox corner thing too. So, So how is it going? What are you thinking, learning, feeling about?
It's going well. I think feels like it started to pop a little bit more just in the last few. The first, I think I started my first one end of January, early February, something like that. And I think Sherry came on with me, and I don't know if I would have kept going if it wasn't for her coming on, because she's been on there almost every single week with me. And it's been really lovely because I can't monologue like a lot of y'all. I need someone to chat with and kind of bounce ideas off of and finish my sentences when I've lost my way. And Sherry's great at that. And I mean, part of it is I think maybe, well, you'd have to ask her why she was drawn to my channel. I wanted to create a space that was someone like me who is a non-expert could play, and who is also interested in creativity and things that aren't quite as thinky-talky. I mean, we get into thinky-talky plenty, but I wanted to create a space where people could share something they made and talk about it. And maybe that's, and then that leads to the theological, philosophical discussion. But when it's grounded in something you've made, it gets personal and it's less like abstract.
That was a long time ago. There was a conversation in these here parts that was about show and tell. I would hear Chad talk about it.
Really?
It was with ideas. So, and then people might steal your idea that you did show and tell with. And it wasn't like, it wasn't an explicit show and tell, but that's kind of like what takes place. Like, oh, I've got this cool idea, mimetic thing that I saw. And then and that's the thinky talky version of that. But like what you did, and I remember watching some of your very first ones, you're like, hey, I'm going to do like, I'm going to put my hands on the piano and just kind of see where they go. And, that took some kind of technical getting the inputs and the outputs to work just right to get,
oh God,
StreamYard and all that kind of stuff. And you're in kind of a studio space, and you've done a lot of, audio recording through the years as a musician. And so that helped create, make that work in a way. But people sharing stories and poems or a book, something they were, embodying that is a good thing, a powerful thing. Like you said, taking it out of the abstract, and in the process, building something, cultivating something.
Yeah. Putting my head down and just playing whatever comes to me. It's kind of absurd to do that as a performance, but I've always wanted to do it because it's kind of a meditative practice for me that I can get lost. I mean, I set a 5-minute timer for people because it's to spare them from me just getting lost in melancholy, interpretive.
The cosmic navel.
Get lost in the cosmic navel. Time kind of keeps things going. Mm-hmm. But it also, I mean, I am Orthodox, and part of what you can hear sirens even in the cosmic navel. Part of what I like to do is create kind of liturgy wherever I am in life, and starting it off with some sort of musical thing, starting it off with something a little bit. Sometimes it's very palatable. Sometimes I'll actually cover a song, but I have kind of a preamble that talks about what the cosmic navel is, and it's very poetic. And I think what I'm trying to do on another level is create a little bit of friction for people so that I don't get weird people on who want to just dominate my channel. And it's a way to do it that so far, I mean, I haven't had my channel swarmed by anyone. So maybe I need a little less friction, but creating a little bit of that up front just gets people to know what I'm about. And like, do they want to be playful and fun and kind of ridiculous together? You're welcome here. If you want to dominate the channel with your ideas, you're going to have a hard time because I'm going to be like singing. I'm going to be like, oh, can you chant that, please?
It was funny because you were on one of my live streams when somebody came in and did that.
Yeah.
We talked about that very thing, which that hadn't happened to me. I don't think at all. And then someone was like, hey, I heard about your channel from so-and-so, and it's like, heard this was a really good place to debate, and I've got all these ideas, and I debate everything. I debate basketball. It's like people are like, is this a bot? What is this? It's kind of a weird thing.
You handled that beautifully, though. I was really impressed, honestly, with the humanity you brought to it.
Oh, who knows? Maybe it was a real person. Maybe I didn't know what to do, and I was just, hopefully I wasn't too deer in the headlights. But the thing about creating the friction, there's all these things about the digital space that's so slippery and so fast, that you do, in a sense, have to create friction, even at the expense of, like, oh, I like seeing number go up, and I was making a little vlog the other day here in the studio, and it didn't hit on the algorithm very well. And I was like, oh, do I take this off? Should I put it back on? Blah, blah, blah. And what was I? Also, so in it, I said something about these podcasts, and I do like this preamble, right? That a lot of people probably just skip through, or like can't, if you watch podcasts, people just like get into it. But I think it's more for me, honestly. I think it's like for me to help navigate where I'm at, and then future me or self, like, and talk about liturgies. That's what that kind of feels like for me, related to what you're talking about, like developing liturgy. And you come from these two guys that like have these music backgrounds. I think there's something like, if you've been a performer, or you like I can imagine, at whatever venue, you were a house musician for a while.
Yeah, I still actually play a little bit at this lounge that I quit for a couple of years.
Have like a way in which you prepare and then start the show and get, like it's liturgical.
It is. We don't have to go too far down this rabbit hole, but my main liturgy for my gig at True Lux, which is this kind of fancy seafood steakhouse in Austin, is to get comfortable playing in the space. I'm in a room that has a volume of its own that is different every time. And so getting my tracks, I play to tracks. Oh my God. I literally, when I first started playing with tracks, I was watching Battlestar Galactica at the time. Have you watched Battlestar Galactica, the newer one?
No.
Oh God, it's so good. I mean, it's basically about humanity and machines merging.
Oh,
and
here we are.
It's scary. Yeah, like it's scary. And I'm like, is this where it starts? Does it start with a human kind of like making love to a machine by playing music with it? And so I'm turning into a Cylon.
I mean, well, listen, dude, there's so much there, because I started doing tracks in 2013, 14 with, the big evangelical Multitracks. They're like they have all the highest level connections to CCLI, and there's like all this marriage between, here's the professionally produced tracks, and you can pick, your drums, your guitar, and it's an app, and it's all this thing. And what you can do with it now is nuts. I haven't looked at it in several years, but like, I was on the kind of the front end of that, and I took our whole log and I bought like all the songs that we had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were completely tied into the machine, Paul Keatonsworth. But I like looking back now, and here's what I'll say. I think there's a difference between doing that in a lounge than doing that in something that's technically supposed to be sacred space. And that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, I feel that though. Like you're plugged in, you have some guide telling you verse, chorus, and then everyone's locked into that. And it creates, in a sense, depending on your, like, if you're all in ear monitor and you're all, I don't know, and it's supposed to be this like engagement, at least in corporate worship.
I once I got used to playing with in-ear monitors, I was like, I never want to not have in-ear monitors. But then what do you do with engagement? If in my gig, I'm not really engaging with people on like verbally, but we're connecting.
You're doing background.
It's very much background, and then it'll become foreground usually when the night kind of fizzles a little bit and the room's about half full, and then people are like, oh, there's a piano player singing over there, and then it turns a little bit more performance, but there's not banter coming from the stage.
And that is a different mode, and I remember going in ear in 2008. I was at, I'd done these 2 summers of church camps, and I got my first in-ear monitor, my Sennheiser, nice, blah, 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 and I called one of these other guys who was a worship leader for this camp organization. And I was like, oh man, dude, this is weird. I was having these like existential, like, questions about, am I disconnected from the people? It's like you're saying it, but we had to make sure our BPMs were right.
Right.
Because we're using all the Hillsong United digital delay, and it has to all be perfect, right? So we're going to have the click track in our ears, right? And
for me, I sing differently with in-ears because I think when I don't have in-ears, I can't quite hear myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just pushing my voice a little too much, and I kind of blow it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so I'm singing like more, like there's just this kind of raspy, tired sound.
Yeah.
Whereas when I have in-ears, I can just relax. And when my vocal cords are relaxed, like it's like spot on.
Yeah. Well,
and I can sing in tune and crisp, and
I can imagine in a noisy lounge where you're like, it's not really designed for concert, right? In a sense, like, and so you have to fight the medium to do well what you want to do. I've had this
man, brother, you're saying something on like multiple levels right now.
Well, I've had this crazy, here we are geeking out about in-ears. That's a conversation that nobody in the corner has ever talked about on the internet. But the thing about it, there's so much there. The multi-track, it has defined so many of my thoughts related to the sacred, related to John Vervaeke, related to these things that Paul Keaton's The Machine. Like, when I'm referencing that, I'm referencing my connect, just like you made that Battlestar Galactica connection to Multitracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something to that. And the part about monitoring, which is what we're talking about, monitoring your voice, and that So I was in my old church. When we renovated this old theater, right? The oldest theater marquee in our state, actually. And we put all this money into it, sound panels. It's like, it's a theater. So it's like got a little bit of the kind of sanctuary-esque thing, but the whole thing, if you're going to be drums in here and electric guitar, the room needs to be tuned, right? It needs to, so you can control it all digitally. Well, like, it's not conducive to congregational singing because it's conducive to rock ensemble, and you're trying to do, say, Hillsong, which is made for the arena.
Mm-hmm.
2 is arena rock. Coldplay is arena rock. That's what that is. And you're trying to compress that into a 300-person seat space. That doesn't actually work to be conducive. So then, like, now I'm in this old colonial styled sanctuary with all these hard surfaces. It's got a art, like a complete arch. People that work at these mega churches that I know they're from here, like one guy was like, that's the best room I've ever performed in.
Wow.
And me and my wife, like we sing, we don't have any monitors. We're just using the PA.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hear the people, and
Yeah.
it's like, I don't really want to go back. I don't want to go back to needing all that stuff to feel like, and
yeah,
it feels like the right relationship with the leading people in congregational singing. And it has to do with the architecture. It has to do with the reverberation and what that room's actually designed for. And so anyways, those are the levels.
Yeah. Reverberation, monitoring. So I want to talk about a little bit more of my ritual of getting into the space. But before I do that, I too am really drawn to just, if you're going to have amplification, just be in a space where you can have the speakers behind you, and the volume at a point where you're not feeding back, but you can hear yourself well enough, and you have a quiet room. During right before the pandemic, I was like dabbling with house concerts. Someone will open up their home, invite their friends. I'll invite some friends, and they just do a donation at the end. And it was so fun and kind of scary because I'm not used to people paying attention to me. I'm used to just being wallpaper in the ears. And so I think there's a part of me that would like to get back to that at some point. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the speakers behind you, that's exactly how we're doing it. And it's just crazy to be, because you're hearing what everyone else is hearing. You're like a part of that whole thing. So
right.
So the thing you were saying about your ritual.
Yeah. So the way I get into playing is I start with a track that's it's like a jazz, kind of a little jazz intro song that I play at the beginning of every single night that I'm there. And it's just tracks and piano, and I have both monitors out, so I can play the song without actually really hearing it. Like I know it well enough that I can just, as long as I can hear a snare drum every once in a while and maybe a bass note, I can hear it through the noise in the room. And then halfway through, I put in one ear monitor to get the level kind of synced up. And then the next song, I'll play one that has tracks, piano, and voice, one that I don't really have to think about. And I'll start playing with one ear in, and it's really uncomfortable for me to play with one monitor in. It's like I'm like falling over or something. And then I put the other monitor in, and I'm sailing at that point. But it's this weird kind of like I'm like meeting the room on this slow kind of gradient, which I think is somehow connected to what we're doing with the TLC and the internet. Like there's some feedback, there's something really beautiful and attractive about being part of a space that you're being heard inside of. It's not just a one directional consumption experience. It's like you're invited into this slow gradient of lurking, kind of coming out of the lurk in the comments, being seen in the comments, then being invited on screen and coming out of the lurk. And with every step, there's this little step of faith that you're risking something and you're gaining something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing that went through my mind, and I don't know if this is true, but was, how old were you when you got Facebook?
Oh God, I think I was probably 23 or something.
Yeah. So you were part of like the kind of the very first wave, right?
Yeah.
And Luke has said this before, but like really using YouTube as social media, you know, and that is happening more and more with communities and stuff. But it's the feeling is that I get from it. It's not necessarily nostalgic, but it's like, this is what we were doing on Facebook. Like, this is how Facebook actually, now it's like, you know, family pictures and that's nice. But like the original part, like was, oh, I made a group and let's talk about this. And, oh, and here, you know, what's your status? You know, it's like status, ooh, ambiguous. What are you talking about? You know, like, oh, I went to this concert. Oh, cool. How it was very social. It was very social.
Yeah, now it's just an address book. I'm like, oh God, I recognize that person. What's their name? What's her name? Like friend of, and then like, you know,
it's a profile, and I wonder if there's a little bit of like millennial-ish wisdom, or like that is at play related to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, people have been doing online discourse and Discord and stuff now for a long time, but it kind of, to me, it harkens back to that. And then the young people who have like gone through the massive endpoint of social media, of like 4chan and stuff like that, gets spun out of that. They're like, oh, what is this kind of a little bit more? It's like, well, this is what Facebook was like when we were 20. That's what it kind of, I don't know. Like, that's what came when you were describing that, related to, I don't know. But the other thing you said about the room, which I, you know, again, felt like I was wondering if you were kind of meeting at first, it's kind of quiet, and then it kind of, you know, people start the drinks and the meals get on, and it's like the volume goes up, I'm gonna put an ear in, and then it's like kind of raucous or something, and like, hey, it's concert now, and I need to really, I don't know. But that journey, the TLC kind of liturgy that you're talking about, you know, what I think I noticed, and I could be wrong because maybe these things weren't on my radar, but they're, as people begin to engage like that more, you take a certain kind of ownership over it, you know? And I, like a person, I was just watching Neil Daedalus and Nick Freerillian did a conversation with a guy named Zepp that just came out. And Nick had only been on Twitter, but he'd been paying attention to the corner since like 17. And he was a young guy, he's like in his early 30s. And now he was, in a sense, he was co-hosting Zepp's Rando. And he did a Rando on my channel. Nick did, you know, like, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, before Midwest Estuary. And you watch, come out, lurk. You come out of the lurk, and then you begin to take some agency, you know. And I mean, even your pattern in a sense, but you were already kind of doing this with developmental philosophy stuff. So it was like, oh, I could shift some of that and do that over here. Seems like. Yeah,
I think that's, I don't know. What's popping up for me is like, what's my next step? You know, I mean, I appreciate you taking taking ownership in the TLC, taking responsibility for the TLC is doing rando conversations. I think that's, Luke is freaking spot on about the rando as kind of the heartbeat of this space. Yeah. Without the randos, it's just like,
it's YouTube content churn, right?
Yeah, it's just YouTube content churn. But it's like, once you have the randos in there, it sparkles, you know? And so I'm thinking about, as you're speaking, like, what would be my next step in this gradient of coming out of the lurk and coming into both kind of a more responsible, self-sacrificial, okay? Because it means that I'm bringing the spotlight to somebody else, and you know, that's sometimes hard for a performer.
That's right. The thing about that, it also builds trust. You know, these things, like I watch, like, so it's funny. talk about this. So last year, my conversation with Benjamin Boyce was my biggest conversation. And the next episode I did was a rando with Afrael. And I don't, no one's told me this, but I think it, like, my hypothesis is that it was a trust building thing that happened, because he was complete rando, but Paul knew who he was, because Paul had been in estuary stuff on the Northwest Coast with him, but he had like come out, he came on my channel, like a live stream. I think it was either the day that Trump was shot or on the Trump's election. I can't remember. But he comes out, and then I do this rando after having like my most, big thing. And Paul did like 3 videos with Afriel after that, like 3 different like breakdowns or something. And yeah, so the sparkle, like you're saying, and like, what is that, and what does it mean to model that, and to put time and care and attention to that. And I wasn't, because Neil said that when in our last conversation, he was like, yeah, you took responsibility. And I was like, I didn't feel like I was taking, here's what I felt like. I felt like I was trying to play the game that I was trying to join in, and like, oh, he's doing that. And this was kind of the show and tell thing. Oh, he's doing that. I'll do that. Oh, I can do a podcast. Cool. I won't do a podcast. PVK does commentary. I'll try some commentary. Oh, this rando. Okay. Now so that was, but at the same time, it's not like it's totally altruistic. It's like, oh, this is cool. Oh, look, number go up. Oh, look, engagement. Like, so it's all at play in a sense. But yeah, I don't know if I felt like responsibility at that point early on, but probably in a sense some now. But I don't know. Yeah,
modeling is so important. It's like this mimetic fuel. And it's interesting that you bring up the term show and tell, because there's a mirror of something that's happening in the TLC that I think is happening in my church, and revolving around this word show and tell. So for the last, I think we're coming up on 20 years baptized in the Orthodox Church, and all I know is my home parish. Like, that's basically it. And when they found out that I was a musician, and they're like, oh, do you want to run our talent show? And I, from the very beginning, have always been really uncomfortable with the term talent show. It puts people into the talented or the not. And it gives people an immediate excuse to say, like, oh, I'm not talented. That's not for me. That's like something cute. But what I wanted to create was a space where people can get to know each other in a way that they don't get to know each other like after church on a Sunday, and just share a part of themselves, whether it's a story, music, a poem, interpretive, scarf dancing. Okay, that's safe here. And so a friend, it would typically land on Thomas Sunday, which is this like a Sunday or two after Pascha. And that's when we would have our talent show. And so a friend was like, well, why don't you call it Show and Tell Thomas Sunday Show and Tell? And so
here are these wounds.
Yes, exactly. So
I don't believe, are you real?
Yeah. But I love the term show and tell, but that comes with other problems because people don't really know what it is. People know what a talent show is, but it's over the years it's developed. And this last Saturday, it kind of moved to the fall last year, and for several reasons, and we put it on a Saturday. This last year, we turned it into a fall festival with an art marketplace, like arts and crafts. And we just started small with like 11 art booths. And you had, a girl selling bracelets for $5. She crushed it. She like made over $100. Oh, cool. 10-year-old, that's good money.
Oh, wow.
I sold one of my metal art pieces. My wife had her table set up. And so this small little fractal of just kind of modeling self-expression, I think just grew and birthed something that I don't know I would have thought was possible at our parish. And I think that's just the power of modeling. Show and tell.
Modeling self-expression, and it's this interesting thing. Like, I don't even know if schools do it anymore, you know. But I think I remember having show and tell on Fridays, and you bring your cool, I don't know, G.I. Joe or whatever.
Yeah.
It stays in your backpack all day because you can't play with it. But it's like, yeah, this is my, you know, there's something really beautiful about that in a way. But then, you know, what about Johnny that doesn't have a G.I. Joe? So maybe we shouldn't do show and tell anymore. And so it's like, what do you do with that? And then, you know, like, but that was even the temptation, or not the temptation, but that was even the motive to change it from talent show to show and tell. Like, well, now it seems to always, there's this level of that. Because on the flip side of that conversation, because I consider, you know, I'm more of a structuralist, hierarchical than I am the postmodern. And I think I would consider you maybe more of like kind of the postmodern, like, I could be wrong, but
I am both. I'm 100% structuralist and 100% non-hierarchical nodal.
The hierarchy, build the hierarchies.
Yeah.
And because there's this, because there is also the talent show that, like, I think about those. There's like a recent one, but that used to be big on YouTube, like the kid that did the dance that could do, like, I don't know if you remember, there was like this talent show dance thing where this guy went viral. I don't know, almost 20 years ago, probably.
Wow.
But I've seen one recently where a kid gets up and does Michael Jackson, and he might not be like, and maybe nobody knew that he could do Michael Jackson. And then he gets up there and, like, you know, all 400, 500 kids at this school rally are just like, look at this kid do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this thing where the talent show kind of can highlight, in a way, secret talent, you know?
Yeah.
And so not to say that I think your idea is brilliant, but that there's also there seems to be a place for that somewhere too.
I think you're describing like how I've oscillated back and forth between show and tell and talent show over the years.
Yeah.
And now I'll literally have show and tell / talent show because I can't decide. And so then I just tell people what this is about. And if they say I don't have any talent, I'll be like, this isn't a talent show. This is about our community getting to know each other. And so
there's a to take it theological.
Bring it.
And to take it Protestant.
And we need you too. Okay.
Well, I heard this is I feel like it's fairly common, but so obviously the tension between what to do with the Eucharist post-Reformation, when Calvin was trying to push against some kind of version he would call like a hyper superstition, but then when he was talking to Zwingli, he was pushing against a hyper, zero metaphysics. And so when he would talk to Zwingli, he would lean into the higher version of a sacramentology. But when he was talking to Catholics, he would pull back and be a little bit more memorialistic in a way. And to try to find, like, what is that? What are we really aiming at? Like, I don't know. And it's not, in a sense, it reminded me of kind of a dialectic in a way that, the way you that, and the way that I've heard that story about Calvin, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But
yeah, well, I think, I don't know if I still have this tagline on Twitter, but at one point I had a tagline like Rigel Thurston, like dancing between Eden and Eschaton. Such a hippie. Oh my God. But I think of Eden as the kind of ultimate bifurcation of opposites, and Eschaton as like the omega, the unification, and somewhere in between those is where I am. And if it's one or the other, I think there are major pitfalls or pathologies that will crop up.
Are you familiar with the term amillennial, the theological term?
That term was just coming into my like awareness around the time I was leaving the Baptist church, because they were like really into like the millennium, and I'm like,
yes,
whoa, this is
symbolically, yeah. And then we could have a conversation about Doug Wilson on Sam Harris talking about his post-millennial, I always get Post Malone when I'm saying post-millennial. I always think Post Malone. But the thing about amillennialism is that the kind of mimetic term that encapsulated is already but not yet. That's kind of the idea about the millennium is also not a strict 1,000 years, but we're in that already but not yet space between Eden and the Eschaton.
You're speaking cosmic navel love language right there. That I feel like that is, I learned already but not yet from Rob Bell. That is for sure where that came from.
Yeah, well, I mean, and he was getting that. That's
Rob Bell, pray to God for us. Take that, Ortho Bros.
you and Luke need to start a church together.
Oh God.
That was, did you see Luke? He put up that thing about Rob Bell. It went viral on Twitter. Did you see that happen? Luke, I was on Facebook and I got an ad from Rob Bell, and Rob Bell's on a bike and he's got a camera and he's going down. He's like, I don't know what's going on in politics and the world, but join me on my Patreon and we can create our own little corner of the internet. And I clipped it, like I did a screen. I sent it to Luke because he's the Rob Bell guy. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Luke, he's like, are you gonna post that? I was like, dude, I think it's yours. I think this is for you to post.
Yeah.
And he did, and he got like 15,000 views. I don't know where it is.
Oh my gosh.
There were people like Young Restless Reform people, like, oh, Rob Bell, blah, blah, blah. Can you believe this guy? But there was something about the angle and his glasses and like the whole, but he was just saying, hey, Rob Bell said this little corner of the internet. That was kind of his thing. And it went boom.
I remember him talking about that.
Yeah. But he's an interesting character. The thing I was most impacted by was his use of media. I watched a few of the Numa videos, and me and a buddy and my brother were kind of into video editing. And I told my friend, his name's Marcus, and he was our pastor's son, and he'd been real homeschooled in, this is like early 2000s, but he got, for his graduation, he got a Canon XL1, which I don't know if you were familiar with these cool cameras back in the day, but it was like, it looked like a big Hollywood camera. It sat on your shoulder and it was like digital, but it wasn't like high def, but it was the first. And he knew how to use Pro Tools. And I was like, hey, I want to make a video like Rob Bell's. I want to do, for our campus ministry, I want to make like a thing. So yeah, I mean, but it wasn't so much his edgy theology for me. It was like the fact that he was pushing the envelope, technologically or something, that I thought was cool. So we're just going on so many tangents right now, but I just had this idea, like, what if we had someone in the corner with some kind of video editing, producing skills, and maybe even some creative direction skills, like do some silly movie together where we all contribute something. I don't know. I feel like it could be really fun. So Chad, which he kind of shut his channel down, but Neil did another one with a guy named David Busatil, and they did worldly news tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all distance, you know, and it was like satire on people Paul talks about, basically, and people in the corner. The thing that I've thought about less silly related to such things, but was like kickstarting something, because you would need, if you're going to do in person, it gets expensive because everybody in the corner is spread out across, you know, a couple of continents in the United States. But it's like, oh, well, what if part of what it was like, you would pay to do this, to go listen to Kale, but then there's a level, give a Dante lecture live, but someone's recording it, but then there's also estuary, and then there's also like vloggy stuff, you know, that kind of thing. Or someone did a mini doc about Grim Grizz, or it all got mashed in together. Like, it's like you go to his house and you're like, here's Grim doing his show, you know, like, third person. You see these things, like David one time he wrote a screenplay, and PVK had like 9 people and they all read through it, you know.
I saw that.
But there are the limits of this format, right?
Yeah.
And
it was hard. I did not stick around for that one. I watched for a little while and I was like,
it didn't hit.
It didn't hit.
Yeah. And I think that the corner, in the sense, is talking about the what's next stuff, but like I have a sense that it either has to do that kind of stuff. You have to tell the story has to be told now in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the medium of documentary, or like you're saying, something could be playful too, but that's my sense of it. I think you're right. Like, well, what if, you know, he had people, there are people that have that stuff, but like the coordination and the finance is actually a pretty big challenge. But that's kind of what I think would have everybody's attention and would take the story further. Is something like that.
The next step of evolution in the TLC.
Well, developmental philosophy.
Yeah.
So why is, you know, when you said to me, on my vlog, I did a little mini vlog and I was interviewing a few people at Midwest Estuary. You were one of them, and you said, this is the bleeding edge. Like, why? You know, let's keep, you know, tapping on that a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that this morning a little bit. Like, what is it? Why is the TLC the bleeding edge of culture? I mean, I think I kind of found this space. I can't tell if it was purely my own personal algo, or if I was like seeking something out and then I ran across this. But, you know, I work for the Institute for Cultural Evolution, which is a really unfortunate name that we're actually going to be changing, I think, pretty soon to something more developmental philosophy oriented. Because the acronym ICE, not we've been like real dodgy with that for many years. And it's like, okay, time to.
And you're in Austin, so like Southern Texas is like pretty, you know, close to the action.
Yeah. Well, technically the Institute is in Boulder, but
okay.
Yeah, I telecommute. So part of my job is just like pushing stuff out onto the internet, like any kind of communication type person, whether it's on YouTube, cutting videos, putting stuff on all the social media channels, emailing our group, you know, facilitating a monthly Zoom group that we have. But I'm also just keeping an eye out for where is evolution happening in our culture. And what I noticed is in this little TLC space is there's a lot of people who seem like they're both conservative and high in openness. I think Luke was probably the first one who put those words together, like conservatives, high in openness conservatives. And I was like, wow, that's really sparkly to me. And, you know, I don't know. I feel like our whole meaning making system in our culture is kind of unraveling right now. And the TLC, it made me think of, are you familiar with Kintsugi art? Do you know what Kintsugi art is? Yeah.
We have one in our house.
Okay. So
I'm a good millennial, dude.
you're so good. So this is a cup that I broke earlier this year.
You did your own Kintsugi.
I had my own Kintsugi on this cup, and I took a piece of rebar from I-35 that I found, you know, and I Kintsugi'd it to this mug that was broken.
Real gold?
No, it's cheap Amazon shit. It's like epoxy with some gold
like a lot.
dust.
That would be quite a bit of gold, actually.
Yeah, no, I know. No, it's just. I'm glad that it tricked you. It looks just kind of like snot. Honestly, it's not high quality.
It's a simulacrum of Kintsugi.
Yeah, but the cracks are the main event in Kintsugi art, and I feel like in this unraveling, both the left and the right, you know, if we want to talk about it in those terms, I don't actually see it through that frame, but there seems to be space opening up, and it feels like the TLC, this groundless ground, is a space where people can kind of try on other ideas without the consequences of being canceled. And I think that work used to happen in universities. And now it's just there's so much, I don't know, the stakes are so high that it's hard to do that without getting a lot of politics and money concern involved.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, if you're doing a 3-hour and you in there and you say you talk for 5 minutes or you talk for 15 minutes but you have this opportunity to, like, I think the way I've described it was, for 7 years, the conversation only went like one way. And I wasn't like you said, it didn't, who do I talk to about this? I don't know. And you come and say, oh, these people are talking about that. And they're, you know, and there's people in here talking. And I was able to enter into a conversation that had been going on, like, in my mind. Like you said, I don't know if I was trying on something, but I was like having the opportunity to process. And I think that, you know, some of the meaning stuff is that everyone, and then it can come out really intense. Like, you're taking in all this political stuff, or you're taking all this philosophical stuff, you're taking all this scientific or religious stuff. And it's like more than we generally have had the ability to process, you know, like, it's probably too fast, but here we are. And so, and some of the stuff, like, if it was, you know, generally in a sense downstream from Jordan Peterson, like, well, he was talking about things online that were dicey. And so, and it happened here. And so kind of like, okay, well, here's where a conversation is going to just keep happening. It's not about those hot button issues from a decade ago, but it's still, I think, part of this, you know, culture.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson was kind of like the sharp end of the spear that I feel like broke it wide open. And I was a Jordan Peterson addict early on, and then kind of just got real uncomfortable with him after he got hyper anti-woke. But, you know, we need that too, to evolve. Evolution is messy. And
keep going.
Well, and so just to give like a little bit of context to what else drew me to this space is, without going into like a full-blown 4-hour conversation about like what is cultural evolution. Maybe we do that at some point, but there's this idea that both culture and consciousness evolve through predictable-ish stages of development. We see that in childhood development, like there's a lot of science and data around that. Cultural development is a little dicey because I think maybe last time we tried to talk about stages of development in culture, really dark stuff kind of resulted. And you have like certain people are higher than other people and don't deserve the same rights. And, so that there's some real danger in categorizing cultures in like this hierarchical stage. But within this philosophy, there's this idea that these kind of mimetic value systems, they solve some problem that's happening. Like traditionalism solved the problems of what came before that, which was kind of a tribal warrior feudal system. It allowed like civilization to flourish. But then, that birthed its own pathologies and problems that modernity came and solved. And then, modernity created its own problems of the industrial kind of revolution and how it tends to just pave over everything that is living. And that kind of gave birth to the progressive postmodern worldview. And so but it doesn't stop with progressive postmodernism. And that's it, the tendency is to think that like my value system is the end of evolution.
The end of history.
The end of history is me. And that's just kind of like human. But so what's coming next? What's after progressive postmodernism? And,
is it regressive postmodernism? Is that what?
Well, maybe we have to go through some regressive postmodernism, but
we are actually.
Yes. Yeah. But what comes after it, everyone's trying to define. It seems not everyone actually understands this evolutionary progression. But you hear people trying to define what's coming next. You hear like metamodern, you hear metagelical, which is kind of a cool, synthesis that Paul came up with. You have integral, which is this other like new age spiritual philosophy that is what this organization kind of came out of. But they're actually pushing off of that, or we are kind of pushing off of this like hyper new age spirituality. Because it's totally like it's become so non-dual that like God isn't welcome. And that's, I don't believe that.
You gotta have to practicing Christian. It's difficult to.
Yeah. But this new space and what I see in the TLC, let me know if we need to go. What I see in the TLC is like you hear people using the word steelmanning all the time. And that's like one of these words. It's like, oh, you're actually trying to make a case for your opponent, not just the weakest possible case so you can come out on top, but the best case so you can actually have like an exchange of ideas.
Do you know where that comes from? Where it was birthed? Okay. So the intellectual dark web of Jordan Peterson and the Weinstein brothers and Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, people in my first conversation with Benjamin Boyce, he was like, and I just am sick of that word and I still use it, even though it's cringe, steel man, strong man, the argument versus straw man, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was in, so Brett Weinstein was tasked with mediating the conversation between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He put that term out into the cultural consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
He put out, I want you to steel man Jordan, and I want Jordan to steel man Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And that had not been done in debate bro culture with Dawkins and Hitchens. There was no steel manning. It was eviscerate.
Mm-hmm.
TLC is still carrying this on as there comes back into a regression that you see online with the conversation around Fuentes and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a new spirit that looks a lot like the new atheist spirit, which is, I remember watching all those debates and, having my own questions and doubts and all these things. But I was like, so you have basically, you're offering me to be right. I get to be ad hominem. That's what I get is, and I never liked that. I never felt like that was like worth, losing this substrate or whatever. And that's why for me, Peterson and that whole thing, but the Steelmanning came out of that. That was, and Weinstein is still kind of, in a sense, if you follow him on Twitter, he's actually still trying to keep that posture open.
Yeah, I think so. I think Steelmanning is a great step in the right direction, but it's still kind of stuck in a non-personalist ontology.
Yes.
And I think this is another thing. Like whenever Luke says something, I'm like, oh, I've read that article because we're just like vibrating on the same wavelength. But Luke talks about this term called Starmanning, which was a guy named Angel Eduardo wrote about it on Center for Inquiry. And it's basically about not just trying to make the best argument, the strongest argument for your opponent, but to see your opponent as a person with like a context and a story, and dare I say, made in the image of God, if you want to go there, and as like the child of a mother, And I think that's where like the TLC kind of thrives, is we've become friends. There's an element of friendship that transcends just pure propositional exchange.
This was where my conversation with you said you were working through it with Boyce, but
yeah, he's
talking about fraternity. Neil talks a lot about fraternity, and of course that has a little bit more of a masculine, side of that conversation. But the point we kind of got to, like, who gets to Starman Nick Fuentes? And so the question, who sees him as a person, not a Nazi? Is that appropriate? Is that, there's a lot, is that okay? And then even if he's not Starmanning other people or whatever, the Jews and whatnot. And to me, that is is there enough? Can that posture stretch? How far does it have the ability to stretch, that, or is there a limit to that? In the kind of Christian orthodoxy milieu that this space, exists in a way. And yeah, so that is a question. And to see like people like the hot conversations with, Tucker Carlson, and this is all very, it just was massively intense on, conservative, dissident right Twitter. But I was talking to Cadell last about this, and there's two things. One is about the cultural evolution, and the other one is about the Starmanning thing. I saw two 50-year-olds talk to this 20-year-old, and and they were calling him out, in their place, in their home. Hey, if you keep talking like this, there's going to be a limit to what people take you seriously, or that's not really a great view about women. And these were men that were saying this to him publicly, and but acknowledging, hey, maybe we agree on these things, but you just can't. That's not going to get you anywhere. And then the other piece of it was, his origin story is a lot like Harry Potter or Voldemort, and it's who do you want to create? Or maybe is he too far from redemption? Is he already Voldemort? Or is there a chance for redemption? I don't know. But it's like, the Sorting Hat? Is he just Slytherin? You know, is it like, or does he have a chance to become brave? I don't know. Maybe he's too old. Maybe it's too far. But
well, I'm a universalist, so I don't think anyone's too far from redemption.
From ultimate redemption. But yeah, well, okay. In the already, but so then the other piece is this cultural evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So I came across this guy on Elliot Betwick's podcast. He's a young Zoomer in the UK that's kind of doing this. He's trying to do Chris Williamson. Like that's his that he's trying to do. High production, sharp questioning, and workout bro, and all this stuff. He's British. And he was talking to kind of this nationalist guy, and he said, because this whole question about identity that we're circling around, and he gave a covenantal view of identity, which talking about the cultural evolution, and we get so much of this outlined from the Hebrew scripture, which is there's the person, Adam, always initially in relationship to the divine. So he's never an individual. He's always a person. And then you have the marriage covenant between Adam and Eve. And then you have the covenant, the Noahic covenant, which is about the household. And then you have the tribal covenant with Abraham. And then you have the covenant of nation with Moses. And then you have the covenant of kingdom with David. And then ultimately the covenant of the church in Christ. And that we actually don't lose any of those identities. But it sounds like a little bit of the conversation about like the evolution is like, well, we're beyond kingdoms. Now you have all these people talking about return to monarchy, or we're beyond, or now and then there's the Christian nationalists. And then you have like tribal stuff, like, and everyone's pointing at these things like, we're beyond that. We're beyond that. I feel like we're all of it. I feel like we're still all of it. And that we do like it. And it's actually that we're doing something. There's like a spell, like the Charles Taylor spell of secularity that says there's no more kingdoms. There's no more tribes. We're all in this secular. And then we kind of go around pretending like these things don't exist, and then there's a nation, every nation, tribe, and tongue. Talk about that. What is that eschaton? Like the nations still exist in the Christian eschaton, at least in that thing. So, yeah.
You're kind of describing a developmental understanding. Maybe you're thinking of it in terms of development exactly, but it's like these different identity kind of domains of identity are stacked on top of each other,
right,
and rely on each other. So like modernity relies on traditionalism, which relies on this tribal system, and progressive postmodernity relies on modernity, even though it's pushing off against modernity. And if, as things unravel, it will unravel to the next, like, most stable point. And, I feel like the traditionalists want everything to just unravel back to like 1950 or, when there was a little bit more of acceptance, and there was the tendrils of traditionalism had a little more power in the culture. I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I wonder if there's I don't know if I'm like in that there's like, I think that you could look at as a person, you could look at those different covenantal identities and you could actually find that they all exist right now in you. Like as a person, okay, a Christian, as a husband to my wife, as a father to my family, as in what's my tribe? Like, is this my friends? Is this my kind of local church? Is this the corner of the internet? Is that my tribe? And, someone actually put me in their tribe on Twitter one time, and then, okay. And then, well, what's my nation? Okay. Am I Arkansan inside of the nation of the United States? And is there a kingdom? Is that the West? And what's the church? Is the church like all of a sudden it's like you have this thing, this meta thing that then goes all the way down through all of them and all the way back up at the very top. It infiltrates all of them.
Yeah.
But that they all exist like right now.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about.
Well, okay. So that's an interesting thought. I would say that they, within time, they all exist to the point that they've evolved within that time frame. So like 300 years ago, I wouldn't say that they all existed. Maybe in some sort of potential, but progressive postmodernism, which I believe is an actual kind of value system that has its own form of goodness, truth, and beauty, wasn't, it hadn't like, there weren't even really like echoes of it then. And because we didn't have the technology to connect the entire world. I mean, part of progressive postmodernism is this like the global understanding that we're all like a human race that deserves rights, and including the trees and the birds. And
well, yeah, and that's an interesting thing about so every person has dignity. What identifies that under, the Imago Dei or God's creation, right? And then, but how does that propagate globally? Like, what is and there is this, like the church, like Catholic, something universal, something global in that way. But that's not globalism, so yeah, I don't know, but I just have kind of wondered, like, I still think that we operate in these fractals of identity kind of outlined in that kind of biblical meta narrative. And that even though we don't call something a kingdom, or even though we were like, oh, we can't just be nationalistic, or like we can't do nationalism again. But it's like, I think we are always doing nationalism, but it's at a certain thing. It's happening. We're always doing empire or kingdom at a certain point, and we're always doing tribal stuff, and we're always ourselves too, in relationship to all those things. Yeah,
but I don't think we can do nationalism in the same way, because
no.
It's a new synthesis that somehow includes now just even the awareness of like a person on the other side of the globe that I can talk to instantly. Is created a new type of nationalism. And when you ask, like, how does this propagate? I think it's like, it's going to propagate in a different way. I think before it was through kind of force and bloodshed. Mm-hmm. And now I think it's through more of a process. And I think this is why the estuary model is like so interesting to me. And I talked a little bit about this in my, my fixed to flow estuary fence.
Oh yeah.
I think in diagrams. So I like had a bunch of little drawings that I made for this, but this estuary protocol, the pitch, point, play, it's kind of like this little package of integrated worldviews. Like it has this structure, which I kind of connect to the traditional, it fences in this area that keeps the wolves out. So there's some safety in there. And then that's kind of like the rules and the facilitated part, and just the structure itself, like starting and ending on time. And then there's the modern, the pointing part, which I associate with kind of like survival of the fittest. There's a survival of the fittest within estuary conversations, where the person with the most juicy, salient idea kind of wins. And then, but everyone also gets their voices heard. So that's very much like everyone's story matters, progressive postmodern for sure.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing, this kind of playful integration of all of them, I associate with kind of this developmental, integral, meta, whatever we're calling it. It's synthesizing it all into this little process that I think could spread.
Do you think, I mean, how do you see it right now? Like from your vantage point, like coming in and noticing that, you know, the people that have been in for a long time have gone to a few quote unquote estuary conferences, and then coming in like at the big, you know, at the biggest point it's been, I guess, you know, that was your first my first participation into the, you know, Midwest estuary. Like, do you see that it still has some juice or some for going forward? Do you think it's, I mean, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, the Midwestuary was really powerful for me to kind of funnel all of this. Sorry, I'm used to like seeing myself in the full screen. So I have my hands up. I'm constantly using my hands, but you can't see them.
You have to use them in.
So this funnel of all these kind of disembodied relationships, like suddenly, like the inside of a chrysalis, whatever happens between the caterpillar turning into a butterfly, this gestalt moment was profound for me, because it was just confirming like, this is real. There's something actually real happening here, and the internet is real. It's part of this like economy.
Yeah.
And there's dignity in it because real friendships are happening. There's this process of moving from out of the lurk into seeing and being seen and waking up, you know, like all of these things, people are growing through it. And
did you say you were starting an estuary?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is another part of this evolution is my buddy Jared, who you may have run across out on the internet. He's kind of like in the last few years has become a little bit of an internet god.
Philosophy bro.
Yeah. Jared Henderson. He was like, tell me about this Paul Vanderklay. I think I had actually been pitching him on it. And then finally he watched some of his stuff, or maybe the algo found him.
Doing God bless the algo.
God bless the algo. And so he was like, what if we started one of these estuary groups? We kind of had the idea, I think, at the same time. And I was like, yes. But let's not do it at our church, because it'll just turn into like an ortho bro like place. And I think the secret is actually finding a diversity of opinions, which I think is an art in itself. So we happen to both have a friend who is an Episcopal priest and a little bit closer into town, into Austin, and he agreed to host it. And so, you know, we had our first one last month in October, and it was just the three of us plus my neighbor. And now we have another one tomorrow. Okay. Which it will have already passed, I'm sure, by the time this comes out. But we have 14 people RSVP'd on the Eventbrite. We'll see. If we get 3 new people out of it, I'll be very excited.
Well, so if it's like, you know, local Facebook kind of stuff, the ad, like how do you know, word of mouth with just.
Yeah, I tried there's like a Discord for Texas. I tried posting on there, but there's not really much activity in the Austin channel. So I haven't actually, none of the TLC folk from Austin have showed up to the first one. I don't know if they will to the next one. But I just put it out on Facebook. I put it out on Eventbrite. I'm trying not to seed it too much with my own friends, but it may come to that,
It may come to that.
It may come to that. I mean, I want like people coming in off the street, like, give me some conversation.
Well, I think so. The kind of the original thing that happened were quote unquote Jordan Peterson meetup groups, because people were looking for a place to talk about this guy without getting canceled or being thought weird. And so to me, there's the version of it that is like divorced from where attention is at or something, where it's like, can we foster something that where it exists on its own? Or is there a meta conversation that I'm trying to have that I can't have? Or I don't feel like I know where to have that conversation. And I feel like that's a little bit, I've kind of have this thesis. I mean, it's not a thesis, but like, is there a difference between this little corner and estuary? And I think this little corner is internet and estuary is meat space. The question is, do they have their own telos that is different? And I don't know, like, can it be divorced from its ontology or its development and creation, I guess is the question I feel like I'm wondering about. And how much of those things are at play. I just don't know, because I know that at some point, like, I mean, there were like big non-for-profit people wanting to use Paul, like they were asking for it to like license it or something from Paul, or, so it has some utility.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had this idea of actually sprinkling estuary conversations into our monthly meetup group through the Institute, because we usually have guest speakers come in and it just turns into guest speaker QA and then we're out. But everyone, we have anywhere from 50 to 70 people showing up, and it would be like a perfect environment for a few breakout rooms and just doing kind of an estuary style conversation.
Yeah. My wife was at a workshop for her school. She's in school to be a therapist, and it was digital, but they then were like, okay, here's the topic that they're what thing that there were actually, it was EMDR. They were looking at. Okay. And then they had breakout groups, and then the host would like jump into those every now and then, but then he was checking on all the little classrooms, so like, it seems like that is possible. You can create those, we're going to do this, and I don't know.
I wonder if estuary and TLC are just, I'm thinking of like a toroidal, like this shape where you have like these forces kind of coming together in this mystical middle. And it's like the estuary and the TLC they kind of support each other.
Yeah.
And it's non, like it's not, doesn't have a creed or a doctrine. So it's not a church. It's like a process that just helps us exist in this fragmented world where we're living in a post-truth kind of space. And what's interesting is I've kind of I've snuck in estuary protocol into some conversations I have with some people at my church who I would put on like the very conservative side of the spectrum. And I feel like they really like it. Because they're not backed into their corner. Like, it turns out we have actually a lot more in common, even though we can't agree on a single news source. We even tried it. I tried to create a shared Google Doc with like, let's pitch each other like 5 news sources. and see if any of them are like let's rank them on, a scale like 1 to 5 credibility. And like all of mine he ranked all mine as 1 and I ranked all of his as 1. But the only one that was like, this was a couple years that we tried this. The only one that was like kind of murky middle was Bill Maher, because he makes fun of everyone. Or Bill Maher?
Yeah.
Bill Maher. Sorry, my brain.
Yeah, he's done something kind of interesting, the place that he's made and kind of being in a certain way, like second or third tier intellectual dark web-ish, kind of like he kind of came around to certain things that he was critical of, but he keeps the door open and people keep coming on his show. Like there's a culture that he has left and right that's really, unique, I think, on what he's been able to kind of hold on to amid all this stuff. That makes sense. But sprinkling estuary into those kind of conversations, I wonder when you're saying that, like the part of whatever maybe the makeup of the conservative-ish person is the fact that there's some structure related to it, the process that feels like, there's a little bit of control here. There's a little bit of, form that I can, but yet the person that likes lots of ideas is like, oh, there's lots of ideas here. And, that it does kind of capture a, something agreeable for people from different kind of dispositions related.
Yeah. Well, I have yet to be in a situation where I really have people coming at it from total opposite points of view. Like I've usually played the role of the opposite for whatever kind of context I'm in. So like if I'm in a very, more liberal place, I'm going to be playing the kind of the conservative. And then if I'm in a very conservative place, I'm going to be playing the liberal, which by the way, I have to say, I just had this kind of revelation after this fall festival where we had, people kind of seeing what's possible in themselves and each other and like, whoa, we could actually do this. Like, it's more fun being the liberal in a kind of hierarchical conservative place than being the conservative in a liberal place. Like it's just hands down, I get to be like the kind of like hippie that just comes in with flowers in his hair and like ruffling feathers a little bit.
All vibes.
But I'm actually like, there's a big part of me that's pretty conservative and I don't want to like travel and I just like things that are predictable and reliable. So I'm a mixture of both.
Why do you feel like it's more fun to be that than the opposite?
Because, well, okay. I mean, I will say that it's not always more fun because it is, I also do feel a little bit like I've gone through phases of being a black sheep because people don't know what to do with me. And this is kind of a story I'm telling myself. I've heard people kind of refer to me as like the flaming liberal, which is so funny because I'm like, to my liberal friends, I'm sleeping with the enemy. So, and so just in kind of a internal church dynamic, the mess of internal church dynamics, it feels like really constricting sometimes. And like all it takes is a few bad interactions with like leadership and it can really be draining.
Yeah.
So I say that it's fun to be the liberal in a conservative church. There are moments. I feel like when trust is established, when people like, I feel like people are kind of seeing me as like both a safe person and kind of a little kooky. That's like a sweet spot that feels real great.
That makes a lot of sense. I see you as a sweet person, but is also a little kooky. The ability to be known and to be accepted or loved or cared about, regardless of your most woke or based opinions or beliefs.
Oh, I like that polarity, woke based. Interesting how they're kind of the same, aren't they?
Now,
Yeah.
that is this.
Well, and here's the thing though, like I'm growing too. This is not like I'm getting everyone to, I mean, I to be a safe person, I have to like, to be perceived as a safe person in, I think, this context, I have to become a safe person. I have to play by the rules enough to like show people that I'm not actually here to destroy, because I think that's the pathology of progressive post. The fear is that they're going to infiltrate, seep in, and then just explode the whole system.
Or not even explode, but dissolve.
Yeah, dissolve.
It's like a solvent. Like the postmodernism is like a solvent to all these things. Yeah.
Yeah. But what if we can use like solvent and viscosity, or what, I don't know the right words, but use these two forces to actually make something more beautiful.
I mean, to go back to your talent show thing, like you kind of created a solvent for this, what could have been a barrier for people, right? Like, and then it kind of gets rebuilt into a little bit of both. Through that, like, where maybe, now you're having to like administrate and craft and, structure this thing. It sounds like, as it got a little bigger, and that's where that kind of building thing, which is like kind of the fun thing, but you're like, look, something got built, something got made, something got cultivated, something got created. And, and it's this weird relationship with the quote unquote creative, but also the administrative thing. And they get pitted against each other. And I mean, in our church, like I'm probably like one of the most deeply conservative people, but I purposely didn't. And people that maybe don't even see themselves as that liberal, they would see themselves as like moderate or whatever. And then there's people that would see themselves as something like liberal. And I say that at least in like our leadership and stuff. And but that, we have to like, as much as like I want to come to a place like, so coming into the corner is like a place for me to try to find the conversations that I want to have, so that when I'm having to have the conversations I don't want to have, I am having them, so that I can, like you said, play by the rules that way, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, and so, I mean, I think that's it's like the word anti-fragile. I'm not sure if there's another word. Yeah. But there's this resilience. I think a new level of resilience that will be required in this new space, this new cultural evolutionary space. That can both kind of work with solvents and work with its emulsifier. Is that something that kind of binds? I don't know. I'm thinking of something that adds structure versus something that, This is what happens when you don't have like an official education in anything. This is the limits of my internet education. I should be
doing better. I did get an A in my college chemistry class not that long ago.
Dang!
When I went back to nursing school, I took chemistry and physiology and everything. That was the
coagulator.
Yeah, I mean that would be for the blood. And we put we have this is kind of gross, but like, so someone who had these suction canisters and they are sucking urine, or sputum and this stuff. And you can put this powder in them that congeals, like you said, or solidifies, and then you throw it in the canister.
Congeal.
Yeah, a congealer. Congealer and a solvent.
Solvent, yeah. And that, I think those are the tools. Like we have to be able to use both. And so I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I think that's, this conversation has been like because I definitely know, like I said, I'm probably deeply conservative. And you're like, I think I'm probably deeply liberal or progressive on certain things and vice versa. But like, that is the beauty. And that's why, like, being able to see, oh, well, this person has some quote unquote based interests, but he's also not like just like a asshole, hopefully, like that. And I can see that this person and vice versa, like, not being there. I think there's something about becoming ideal, like an ideologue, or letting that be your only North Star or your North, what I don't even know. That has continued to be a part of this culture. And, trying to participate in it, trying to open these spaces, trying to, find the truth. I like what you said, I guess, in the break, in my conversation I had with Cadell, will be coming out, like, he's the one, he's a Christian atheist. He runs an online community called Philosophy Portal, and he's doing community work related to, and he sees something similar, that like when we're talking about the Protestant Reformation and we're talking about like the civil rights movement, or we're talking about these breaks, the Great Schism, like that, he says he thinks the truth is in the breaks. That's where you find the truth, is in these the
Kintsugi, man,
and
it's in the breaks.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. What was the truth of Protestantism? Is it just complete ultimate heresy, ortho-bro heresy, or was there something true that needed to be addressed? And whether it messed everything up, or like was it like, and we find that, and so we're in a time, probably the Peugeotian, I don't know who else, the post World War II consensus thing, that's conversation that's happening. And it's like, well, there's a break from something, there's something cracking, and there's probably some truth here, and it's going to take some time to figure that out. But it feels like we're like in those spaces.
Yeah. I want to come back to that, but something I was thinking about while we were talking about solvents and congealers, we're just making up stuff that we don't know. I feel like, that's one thing I want to add to our estuary protocol, is like no Googling anything unless you have total 100% consensus from the group, so that we just like make up. Yeah. In the conversation, like,
it's okay to be wrong. It's
okay to be wrong. Like, you just need to make it up and see if you can convince people by your certainty.
Propaganda.
Yeah. But I kind of map this solvent congealing energia, to like the right and left brain, or there's a brain hemisphere. And so when I talk about being right or left, I feel like I just want to be a whole brain person, not a like one-sided person. And Ian McGilchrist has done a lot of like work on this right brain hemisphere stuff, and he talks about the corpus callosum being like that crack between that both bridges and separates these two hemispheres that are both like kind of at odds with each other, but also kind of need each other.
Yeah, there's so much about the liminal web, liminal space, these cracks. Like that's like what liminal, like like you think about like the light breaking through or something, like in these things that happen. And even like in the development of the Christian church, like I had this great conversation with a guy named Bas van Os, who's a theologian in the Netherlands, and his sons kind of participate in the corner. They had the European Estuary Conference last year, was like at their house. And he's done this project where he's taken certain sections of New Testament, and he's like doing a first person account, like perspectival through it. And there's so much related to perspective of, well, here's Paul, Hellenistic Jew, and Titus is, Greek, and Timothy's both. And then he's coming in, there's Peter and James are trying to figure out the Jewish church, and they come in there and there's like this kind of like tension. And it's like, because something's like breaking through, something's happening, something's changing. And these figures, by their very nature, are liminal. Like Paul was like a liminal in his development, like as a Greek to the Greek and like a Hebrew of Hebrews, like was able to do that as uniquely made for that time. So how these things all play together is fascinating. And I feel like that's part of this space, is that time. And who knows how long it will be, and will it congeal into something more, or will it have a role of solvency, or will it ping pong back and forth? But Rigel, man, this has been a fun conversation today. And I appreciate you accepting the invitation to come back on and meander and talk about things corner, things cosmic, Navel, music, like even some of the technical. I felt like I was having this thought when we were going through that, which was, sometimes Rogan is talking to someone about something that they're talking about something really highly technical, and you think, well, nobody's going to care about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like when you get to kind of peek behind the curtain of something that you never maybe have experience with, or you see these people with those things in their ear, you're like, what's that about? What, how does that work?
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know. That was actually like running in the back of my mind. Like,
okay. So there's this principle in songwriting. Sorry, this could just we could go for another hour, probably starting now. There's this principle in songwriting about, like the more general you write, the less relatable it is. And the more specific you write, the more kind of universally kind of relatable it is. So like John Mayer like uses a lot of sensory language and like very specific like places. And this is like a Berkeley kind of School of Music concept, I think. And it's those like sensory specific details that maybe seem like that's just so specific to your life, actually paints the picture that allows us to kind of like put that image on. Whereas like general platitudes just mean nothing. And there's like, you're just kind of floating out in the wind. So I think it's actually these like nerdy little details that actually, I don't know if the algorithm is going to pick up on how awesome they are, but I think they kind of make things sparkle a little bit.
Well, thank you for hopefully helping me make this corner of the internet sparkle a little bit by being corner centric. Some of the things, like, here's another model that Paul, it's like, there's times Paul is making stuff specifically that's way more out, like, hey, and then he'll say, sometimes you may hear me talking about this little corner. And when then something's like very hyper, I think that's another model to consider as far as in this digital space, is at least that I am, I guess. But this is like, looping back around to something very corner centric. And you were, a part of that. That's so interesting, of being able to have like an influence on someone related to this thing. And then you write about it. I sent your Substack to like my family. I was like, hey, check this out. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like my parents and my siblings and stuff, because they know I'm doing this stuff to keep up in different ways. But it's like, I was like, this was really cool because, you had like the thumbnail, and then you talk, Christian baptized me into this thing. And which is, obviously that's a tongue in cheek, but it's like, it just felt like, yeah, I'm doing something. And you were a part of that. And so it's fun to continue to like carry on this relationality. And we actually met in person, and you found out that I was 6'5", and I found out that you were 5'6".
I know. Yeah, we look exactly the same on camera. You know, look at that. Same size right there.
If you find my vlogs from Midwest Estuary, go track down like the second one or something, and me and Rigel, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
Rigel, what do you think about this little corner?
That was great. I did watch that. I actually appreciate your role in this corner as like the unofficial kind of reporter and connector, and I don't know. You have
I
like
think it's a story. I think this thing's a story. It's not only a culture.
That's why. Okay, I think that's partly why I use the word TLCing. It's like this. It's not a noun. It's like this ongoing, living tradition. This story. I just put living tradition in there because it feels more kind of significant. But it's like a living, breathing thing that I think is worth documenting, because I feel like we're making, who knows? I could be totally wrong. It could just totally fizzle, but I feel like this scene is going to be part of whatever comes next.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Can I plug something?
Plug away.
Okay, so I just want to.
What do you got going on, Rigel?
Well, I just want to drop a little note on your channel, on CBAC channel, about an upcoming conference that my organization is helping put on. Are you familiar with Ralston College in Savannah?
Very.
Really?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Joe spoke at recently, I loved his talk that he did there about that being like a seedbed for, rebuilding culture, actually.
Okay, so apparently Ian McGilchrist is now the chancellor, taking over Jordan Peterson's role, I think. I don't know the whole history of it, but our organization and the Center for Process Studies and Christogenesis, I can't remember, it's Elia Dilio's kind of organization, are putting on a conference called The Future of Meaning, the Philosophical Renewal of Truth, Beauty, and Goodness. And Ian McGilchrist is going to be kind of our headliner. And we're in the process of finding other people to come speak. I think, David Bentley Hart is one person who may be coming. And we have kind of a list of other people. I think Paggio might even be on the list of people to invite. But I think it's going to, I would love it if there was just a sprinkling of estuary folk there to kind of bring this medium of interaction into, Ralston College, maybe, it sounds kind of like you're a pretty cool, like classics based, very high in debate and conversation. And so they may already just be masters at this stuff, but
everybody takes like 4 years of Greek and Latin at that school or something.
I know. No, they go to Greece to take like Greek.
And they read the classics in the original. I think that's like the old schoolness of what they're doing. And yeah, I'm really fascinated by them. And because I think that the guy who's been like the big face of their school, he was like on the biblical lectures with Peterson, and he has really interesting conversations about culture, and it's very kind of elite-ish, like the classical style suits and everything, and in a way similar to Arc in a way, but more low key, like aesthetic, more grounded aesthetic. But it's like I saw Ian McGilchrist at Arc, and I walked. He was on like, there was like the tables down front, and then there's like a pathway, and then there's like some still a little bit of stadium seating, and he was on the front row of those stadiums, and I was walking by it, and here's what he was doing. He was as fast asleep. I was like, he's just, he's here because someone told him he had to be.
Yeah.
He'd be up in Scotland, in his his Macbethian retreat that he's got up there.
Oh my God.
That sounds like an awesome
Yeah.
I would love to actually. Where is it? And when is it?
So it's going to be mid-May 2027. So it's a little ways off, but it will be in Savannah at Ralston College.
Yep.
And so
I'll probably be there.
That would be amazing.
And I'll probably bring my little microphones and try to get up in some people's faces.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Little TLC infiltration.
This is the story, man. Like, I feel like things like Ralston, McGilchrist, like, where's this thread? You know, you even put the lore in there. McGilchrist is replacing Peterson. That's like, that's like lore on this thread. You know, I'll give us this poster. It's not going nowhere.
Finally, I can use my hands. Oh, yes, that's right. That poster's not going anywhere. Even
with all the hate and with all, and that can you believe he's not a perfect person? Can you believe he sold out to Daily Wire? Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
I know. Yeah, he is part of the lore.
There's a story, man. And this is part of it. That little bit of lore, and that I would love to go to a conference at Ralston College. I would love to know somebody there personally. And it's like, I did meet Peugeot, but like, it's not the same.
Yeah, no, you and me, we'll go to McDonald's together like we did that one morning. Man, that was a good time. I just love that.
Talking about liturgy in the car, and that was good. That sounds like an awesome conference. Say the name again.
Yeah. So it's going to be The Future of Meaning, the Philosophical Renewal of Truth, Beauty, and Goodness on May of 2027, somewhere between the 16th and the 27th. I'll just read like a little paragraph that I got for this. Inspiring new forms of philosophy are appearing in our time. Philosophies that offer renewed hope for our search for meaning in the modern world. A common theme of these emerging philosophies is the crucial role of values in the ongoing evolution of our universe. By showing how truth, beauty, and goodness are cosmic realities that are essential to a truly scientific worldview, these fresh forms of philosophy can help us transcend both materialistic thinking and the retreat into various forms of fundamentalism.
Oh, sounds familiar. Sounds developmental.
So developmental.
Man, that if it's got McGilchrist at Ralston with possible Peugeot and I don't, some other folks like I guess connected to what you're doing, I'm pretty interested in that. And there's this whole conversation about philosophy and theology, like shaping the role of science in a new way. So, man, I'm gonna end us there, and I'm just so thankful that you came and played here in the Yours Truly virtual studio, from sailing in from the Cosmic Navel studio in Austin.
Thank you, Christian. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thanks for sticking around all the way to this point of the video. I want to encourage you, if you thought that video was interesting, you'll probably like this one. Check out these featured corner conversation playlists, and if you want to keep up the podcast, you can follow along here. And don't forget, subscribe.